Is one of Italy's most talented and creative players coming to Tottenham Hotspur? Paratici seems to be cooking with 4 brand new transfer targets. Meanwhile, the profit and sustainability rules in the Premier League are leading to blatant corruption and rule bending as the Premier League clubs who need money before June the 30th try and get it in. All this and more in today's daily Premier League transfer news with me, Barnaby Slater. Guys, thank you so much for all your support and for watching. Please do give this video a like. Press subscribe if you haven't already. You'll get daily Premier League transfer news every afternoon around about midday. And also you can listen to this as an audio podcast. Go over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. Type in the Spurred On podcast and you'll find me there. Give me a subscribe or a follow. Finally, also you can become a member, a pro member or Patreon member. All the details in the description box. Only £1 a month, and it really helps me to make this daily content for you. But let's get on with the daily Premier League transfer news and news from wider and further afield, starting of course as always with my team, Tottenham Hotspur. And we are interested, according to Gazzetta in Italy, in Federico Chiesa, an unbelievable talent. And apparently we've overtaken Newcastle United in terms of having talks and trying to get this deal done. We're in pole position to get him from Juventus. That is according to Gazzetta, as I said. Apparently Spurs swiftly entered the fray, engaging with Chiesa's representatives in a bid to land the midfielder quickly. Now, what do you think, Spurs fans? We've heard, haven't we, that Ange Postecoglou wants Tottenham to get their deals done early this summer, but I really feel like I think the instinct amongst Spurs fans is to have a go at Daniel Levy and say it's the recruitment team and the chairman's fault. But I think the Euros and having a summer tournament really does put a little spanner in the works, as does, of course, this June the 30th deadline to get the next load of books in, financial books that is, for profit and sustainability rules reasons. And as a result, I think that has kind of made selling clubs slow down their process to see what they can get, and Tottenham have not been able to do really much early yet. In fact, only that Timo Werner loan deal so far. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. Is it that, or are you going to go in on Daniel Levy and say it's because they're haggling for money, as we know he usually tends to do? Meanwhile, Tottenham are also one of the clubs interested in Jonathan David from Lille. He's into his final year of the contract. But Sky Sports, Dharmesh Sheth, from Sky Sports says that that could change quickly, and Tottenham are one of many clubs interested in David. That's a deal that really has been talked about since maybe a year ago, definitely 6 months ago, but he is a talent that we're looking at on the list. Meanwhile, the Nico Williams story just ramps up, and that is because he is having an unbelievable European Championships for Spain. He is one of the standout players, an unbelievably talented winger, just goes at his man left or right. He's exactly the kind of player Spurs need, but I fear at this point, because of other clubs' interest, we will not be able to get a deal like this over the line. His release clause is relatively small, 58 million euros. However, apparently he knows his worth and is really asking for astronomical wages. However, according to Ali Gold, he's not indicated any specific desire to leave Bilbao, nor are the Basque club worried about losing him at the moment. But in the last day or so, since Chelsea have missed out on Michael Elise from Crystal Palace, more about that later, apparently Todd Bowley and Clear Lake and Chelsea are really pushing to get Nico Williams through the door. And of course, Chelsea are one of the clubs who would be willing to pay, upwards of £200,000 a week in wages for a player like Nico Williams. So let me know, Spurs fans, what you think. Is this another one we're going to miss out on because of clubs willing to pay more wages? And if so, is that the right decision? Or would it be worth trying to kind of break our wage structure, get him on a kind of deal, the kind of deal that we had Hugo Lloris and Harry Kane on, in terms of being upwards of £200,000 a week with performance enhanced incentive bonuses? He is a talent, but as always, just putting my devil's advocate hat on, players don't always settle in well coming from abroad, and if we were going to put him as our highest wage earner straight away, that's a lot of pressure on a young man. He is an unbelievable talent, though. Tottenham are in pole position apparently to land final defender Luciel Gatruda. We've been talking about him for a month or so now. Liverpool's reluctance apparently under Arne Slot to make the deal happen quickly has opened the door for Spurs, who watched Gatruda recently regularly last season, and according to the Mirror, Spurs are hoping that he will opt for them. I'm hoping that Ange Postecoglou will get on the phone for him. He looks like a very talented player who could cover a number of positions, and that's really what we're looking at the moment: flexibility, versatility, depth in the squad, especially with a Europa League challenge coming next season, and the fact that our squad really got decimated by injuries and suspension last season. That's when we basically played the fewest number of games we have in not living memory maybe, but certainly for the last 15 or 20 years. Now on to those kind of 4 new talents that we're apparently bidding for at the moment. These are definitely, by the sounds of it to me, Paratici deals that he's looking to get in. We're tracking the Italian centre-back Giovanni Leone. He's only 17 years old, and he's joined Sampdoria permanently, but the Serie A outfit would let him leave for only €4 million as long as he was able to stay on loan at Samp until 2025. A little bit of insight on Leone. Came up through the ranks at Padova. He was promoted to their first team last summer, and after just 6 months in their senior side, Sampdoria decided to get him on a short loan. He featured in 12 matches for the Serie B outfit and even got himself on the score sheet once. I think this is a classic example of how Tottenham are looking once again to explain what our recruitment strategy is at the moment. Looking at kind of top players who can go straight into the first team, and then also young opportunist signings with raw talent, kind of like the Destiny Udogie signing that we made, where maybe they're not quite ready yet. We leave them back out on loan wherever we got them from, and then finally when they come in, they're ready to hit the ground running. Another example of this is that we're apparently looking at Michael Coyote from Fiorentina, 19 years old, a right back. Fiorentina apparently not desperate to sell him at the moment, but Spurs really looking at him. Clearly a Paratici one again, and fullback is definitely an area that we're looking to strengthen. That's clear. A lot of these targets are showing that, and another young Italian talent, not something I would be afraid of, considering how well Destiny Udogie has done since he came to Spurs. A bigger name, Mats Hummels. Apparently his agent has contacted Spurs over the possibility of the club signing him from Borussia Dortmund on an initial 1-year deal. He's free to leave Dortmund. Obviously he's been an incredible player in Germany for a number of years. This one doesn't seem to me to suit the transfer strategy, but would it kill us to get a little bit of experience in alongside these young players that we're building to grow the club and get them all together hungrily looking for titles and trophies? Maybe it wouldn't, but we'd need someone who would slot in seamlessly, and I'm sure Hummels would ask for a lot of money as well. Another report that won't go away is Amadou Onana from Everton, still a target, and obviously he's been playing in the European Championships for Belgium. A big one that has come out in terms of big money possibility signings over this weekend is Manchester City right-back Jan Kuto. It's according to The Sun. We're interested in signing him. The Sun are calling him an outcast, but he's a young wing-back. Started at Girona in La Liga last season on loan as he helped the club qualify for the Champions League. Tottenham keen on signing the Brazilian as a replacement for Emerson Royal. I've mentioned a few times we will be looking to sell the players that don't fit into Ange's system before bringing in these players, and that's why the list is so long and so many new names keep cropping up. Another one you may have seen, Tottenham apparently looking to do a swap deal with Southampton that would see Joe Rodon signed for Southampton permanently and the 21-year-old Argentinian Carlos Alcaraz come the other way to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Alcaraz had a decent-looking first season at Southampton in the Premier League when they got relegated, and then he joined Juventus on loan, making 12 appearances for them last season. He's clearly a young talent that Johan Lange, Ange Postecoglou and Paratici seem like they think would fit into our style of play. And obviously he's got some Premier League experience as well already, despite being young. So be interesting to see if that swap deal will come up. Obviously the only swap deals Spurs have done in recent years have all been Paratici deals. So not a huge surprise that is something that is being talked about. Meanwhile, after Pierre-Emil Højbjerg's really unbelievably excellent performances at the European Championship so far, to be fair to him, he's always done well for Denmark. And when he's kind of given the freedom to be himself and to play his own natural game, he never really fails to impress when he's playing for the Danish national team. And as a result, apparently AC Milan are preparing a bid to sign him. Their new manager, Paulo Fonseca, has asked for a physical player with strong defensive awareness. And of course, that is something that our Danish midfielder does have. Milan consider Højbjerg an economical option for the summer, as he has a low price tag compared to other players that they're interested in, around 20 million euros. I've been saying for a while now, if we can get anywhere near that 20 million euro, 20 million pound mark, I think we accept it and we move on and say thank you to Pierre for all of the service he's given us. Apparently AC Milan are confident of completing that deal and are expected to launch their offer soon. Going over now to, as I mentioned before, Emerson Royal. Ali Gold has said that it's understood Emerson Royal simply wants to play first-team football, regular first-team football next season, no matter where that is. It could be at Spurs or it could be elsewhere. Well, I think it's very unlikely that it'll be at Spurs. Also, I'm sure you saw that on Friday, some legal accusations have been thrown at Emerson Royal in terms of kind of financial stuff and fraud. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But apparently Brazilian side Flamengo are keen on taking Emerson Royal back to Brazil. And there's still interest from clubs in the Saudi Pro League as well. Obviously, back in January, if you remember, there was a kind of, I think, 20 to maybe even 25 million euro bid for Emerson Royal from Saudi, and Spurs said no because they felt they needed him for the squad depth this season. But now I would be taking that money. Emerson has actually given some quotes about it. He says, I know that Milan are in talks with Tottenham. They're asking for information about me. For me, it's very gratifying because Milan is a team known for having Brazilian players. Let's wait and see what happens. Unfortunately, I've got to go back to the Rodrigo Bentancur story that I talked about last week in terms of his very ill-advised racist joke that he made about Son Heung-min. Apparently, he could be facing a ban because of that joke, with the FA considering whether to charge the midfielder. That's according to Tom Allnut. Rodrigo Bentancur did last week kind of release a second statement about that situation. He said, I would like to communicate to all fans and everyone who follows us that after my interview where I referred to Sonny and no one else, I have spoken to him, and logically, given our deep friendship, he understands it was only an unfortunate misunderstanding. All has been clarified and solved with my friend. If somebody felt offended because of my words through this media tool, I would like to offer my sincere apologies. But I also would like you to know that I never referred to anyone else, only to Sonny, and for that reason I've never had the intention to offend directly or indirectly anybody else. A big hug and all my respect to anyone. I mentioned last week how it felt like his initial Instagram post was sent personally from the heart. This one feels like more of a PR job. I think it's obviously become clear to him that the fact that he didn't apologise to the East Asian community more as a whole is something that he should have done, and therefore he sent this secondary Instagram post, probably in an attempt to hopefully see the end of the matter. But yeah, if the FA are looking at potentially charging him, then that clearly won't be the case. But a big lesson to any footballers, really. And, you know, as much as we kind of don't like footballers being boring in interviews and media trained, this kind of thing shows how it's a really slippery slope if players are kind of given free rein to say what they want when the cameras are rolling. Because, yeah, clearly Rodrigo Bentancur didn't even think twice about making this ill-advised joke, and it's going to come back to haunt him, but probably even Spurs as well if he ends up with a ban from it. Some more news. A coach who's worked with both Ange Postecoglou and Maurizio Pochettino, Anton McElhone, has given some quotes on how he feels they differ in terms of training. He says Ange doesn't take 90% of the training. He steps back so he can see everything, and several times he said to me, that player doesn't look right. He takes the tactical stuff and the meetings pre and post match, which he's incredible at and brings everything together. The themes are there every day with Ange, inverted fullbacks, wingers high and wide, breaking lines, but he allows the players to thrive in it, without telling them you must stand here, you must stand there, whereas Maurizio was very specific to get to his model. Players hate when they are restricted. The style is so invigorating that it takes away excuses for players as he takes the responsibility for allowing them to try things in his style. He'll be ruthless this summer and go and get even better players to play his way. Guys, let me know, Spurs fans, what you think in the comments about that. It's so refreshing to hear because that's exactly what we want. To dare is to do. We want players who are given a set style and an aggressive and forward-thinking front foot style, and then also allowed to be creative in their own way as well. And as we add to the squad with players who are technically more proficient and more brave on the ball, and allow us to create space for our other kind of talented players, by which I mean creatively, like Maddison, but also make space, maybe more space because of their creativity, for players like Brennan Johnson to run at the last man and get to the byline, then Spurs will become even more prolific than they were last season. And actually attacking wise, although we've had a lot of complaints about the defensive ailments of Tottenham last season. Attacking wise, we did score a lot of goals, and it was an impressive season, certainly in terms of comparatively to previous seasons under Antonio Conte and Jose Mourinho. Another mention about Spurs: they have increased their season ticket prices for 24-25 season to allow for inflation, a £6 increase on Category A tickets and a £1 increase on Category B and C tickets, and that has caused some uproar amongst Tottenham fans once again. I don't know. It's not ideal, especially when you look at the amount of money that Daniel Levy is taking home, by far the most remunerated chairman in the Premier League. He has done great work with the stadium and with facilities and getting revenue into the club, so you can kind of understand that. But again, I've talked about it in the last few weeks. Spurs are not afraid of a PR gaffe, and this one just doesn't look great when the cost of living is so high for everybody in this country, and they're highly aware that going to Tottenham, going to your local football team, or the team you support, is such a release for families, and that should not be taken advantage of. On to other transfer news now. I mentioned earlier Michael Olise. Chelsea pushed hard for him, but in the end, and I think sensibly for the player, I'd love him to have come to Spurs, but obviously we weren't really in it, probably because of his wage demands. He has chosen to join Bayern Munich to go and make goals for Harry Kane. They've reached agreement on his salary and contract, and the deal is in place on all sides. Chelsea and Newcastle also pushed hard for him, but as David Ornstein initially reported, I think on Friday, Bayern Munich is where he's chosen. Over to Manchester United, they are seriously thinking about bringing in a new midfielder because they think Casemiro is going to leave, and they were looking at Mexican captain Edson Alvarez, the West Ham player who went to West Ham from Ajax, but over the weekend he suffered what looked like a hamstring tear, so I think that'll probably change Man United's plans for going for him. West Ham consider him a key player anyway, so I'm sure under their new manager Julian Lopetegui, they would be looking for huge money to let Edson Alvarez go. Meanwhile, some interviews with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the owner of Ineos, who took a 25% stake in Manchester United, and he's being very forthright in terms of some of the financial issues around the club. He said the net spend since the departure of Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill is £1.1 billion. Real Madrid's is £200 million, only £200 million, and they have today 6 or 7 players valued at over £100 million. United have none, and they've made the new Bernabeu in that time. So what he's doing is trying to compare Man United to the other biggest clubs in the world, and just saying they've suffered so badly with financial mismanagement, bad spending, and that's what he's really coming in to try and change straight away, and that will affect their transfer dealings. Going over to Man City, apparently Bayern Munich are interested in signing Bernardo Silva, 29 years old now, and he has a £50 million buyout clause in his contract. Mentioned a few times, I think Silva is looking for a move, a fresh challenge, and has been for maybe a couple of summers, but he's not going to go anywhere unless the deal is right for him and the club is right. If Bayern Munich got Olise and Bernardo Silva to help Harry Kane up front, you'd see them really cooking next season. Maybe they'd have a proper attempt at the Champions League, which for me I'd like to see, because I'd like to see Harry Kane lifting the big-eared trophy. Over to Arsenal, apparently they're about to secure the signing of Sporting striker Victor Gyökeres for below his €100 million release clause. They've apparently agreed on a fixed amount of €90 million, which may raise to €120 million after add-ons based on goals, Champions League appearances and trophies. Madness. He's a good-looking striker, done well at Sporting Lisbon, but he was at Coventry just a couple of years ago, and once again showing that these big clubs in the Premier League not willing to pull the trigger and take the plunge on Championship players, and that comes back to bite them further down the line where they have to pay potentially massive money. Meanwhile, Newcastle United pushing ahead with a deal to sign Everton striker Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Still work to be done and talks not finished, but they're closing in on someone they've been looking at for a long time. This is an interesting one because I'll get on to some of this profit and sustainability rules business in a second. Meanwhile, if they do get Dominic Calvert-Lewin in, according to Football Insider, they will then sell 32-year-old Callum Wilson, and he's apparently interesting West Ham and some Saudi Arabian clubs. Now, in terms of that profit and sustainability rules kind of... well, I said corruption at the front. Everton, Aston Villa have basically exchanged academy players at transfer fees that are massively inflated. So Tim Arogabunam and Lewis Dobbin. Arogabunam joins Everton from Villa on a permanent deal, and Lewis Dobbin has joined Villa from Everton for £10 million. This is all basically accountancy loopholes that these clubs who desperately need to sell by the end of June, we're looking at Chelsea, we're looking at Everton, Aston Villa, and potentially Nottingham Forest. Well, Everton and Aston Villa have got together and they've said, well, if we sell our academy players, which counts as pure profit towards profit and sustainability rules, at inflated prices, then that will cover us off and mean we don't have to necessarily sell as many of our big names as we had to. You've got to bear in mind, Aston Villa already having to sell Douglas Luiz at about £50 million. They're getting some Juventus players potentially as swaps along with that. But these academy players at inflated prices, this is something the Premier League will not be happy with. Fans are already up in uproar, and I think this is a loophole that will close very, very quickly. Let me know in the comments what you think of that. I think it's distasteful, to say the least. And I have to say, I think it's something that Daniel Levy will be choking on his cornflakes over, because I think he's been waiting till, the next kind of 6 days or so to see if we can cherry pick some of those potentially Villa or Everton players to try and take. And now if they're going to sort out their financial issues by selling academy players at a highly inflated price, then that means Tottenham will not be able to get cheap deals as he would have wanted. Over to Brighton. Borussia Dortmund apparently very close to reaching an agreement with Pascal Gross, 33 years old, but in the German national side. He only has a year left on his contract. Sky Sports Germany saying he's going to go to Dortmund. That's a good move for him. I do fear for Brighton a little bit this season. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how their new 31-year-old German manager does when he comes in. But Gross is a big player for them, and let's see if any other players try to leave at the same time. Meanwhile, West Ham are determined to sign Barcelona forward Ferran Torres this summer. He's one that Spurs were talking about potentially being interested in last week. Apparently, despite he's not really desperate to leave the Nou Camp, but Barcelona need to sell him and have told him that he is surplus to requirements. Julian Lopetegui at West Ham looking to get some good, flary players in. It's clear that the West Ham fans have been listened to. Even though they've had good seasons, they've won a European trophy, they want more excitement, they want more flair, and Lopetegui is trying to get in players like that. They've got a few players in already from South America, and Ferran Torres obviously is a very direct, exciting forward. Meanwhile, West Ham also in pursuit of Bayer Leverkusen forward Adam Klosek, who could be snapped up on a bargain $12 million deal this summer. They've also just signed Wes Foderingham as their new third-choice goalkeeper on a free transfer. Meanwhile, they are interested, as are Southampton, with Hull City winger Jadon Philogene, and they are looking to hold talks with him. Over to some managerial news, or some coaching news. Apparently Man Utd interested in getting Ruud van Nistelrooy in as a coach as part of a new coaching setup under Erik ten Hag. Meanwhile, though, he's also set apparently to have talks to maybe become the new manager of Burnley. They want an ambitious coach with a distinctive playing style to take over from Vincent Kompany and to get them straight up to the Premier League again. Finally, it's kind of Monday, very early morning when I'm filming this. Obviously, tomorrow night, England play Slovenia in their final group game. I haven't talked to you, I don't think, since, not very much anyway, since the England-Denmark game. And since then, Gareth Southgate has come out with that comment about England not having replaced Calvin Phillips. He's making a bit of a rod for his own back here. All I can hope is that England will play themselves into this tournament. There's been a lot of talk about potentially dropping Harry Kane. That cannot and will not happen. We've got to play him into form. He had an injury at the end of last season for Bayern Munich. He's obviously struggling with it a bit. But what he does need, I think, is some more pace around him. So it'll be interesting to see whether maybe they take Phil Foden out of the firing line against Slovenia and bring on some pace, maybe Anthony Gordon or Jared Bowen around Harry Kane, and try and find ways to get in behind, something that England haven't been doing. Let me know in the comments what you've thought of England's performances so far, what you think the result will be against Slovenia, and who you would start in that game. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening to today's daily Premier League transfer news. Please do press the like button, press subscribe if you haven't already, click on the bell button so you know when my videos come out. Also, please do become a member. It's only £1 a month and really helps me. All the details in the description box. I'll be back with another episode tomorrow. Have a good day. Cheers.